Hi, my name's Sam. Welcome to the channel. And today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite comic book series of all time, Ren and Stimpy. So one of the reasons why I love Ren and Stimpy so much is you see a variety of styles in the comic. It's usually the same creation team. They ran for 40 plus issues. There's a bunch of different specials and whatnot that they also had done with these comics. This is going to be its whole own series of looking at these Ren and Stimpy comics. I have so many of them, and I think that just doing a lot of research online, there doesn't seem to be a lot of videos on these, which I think is kind of a shame. So I'm going to do everybody a justice. We're going to cover some Ren and Stimpy then. The Ren and Stimpy comics, you can honestly find a lot of them in dollar bins. You just kind of have to dig for them and find them. You usually find them for a dollar or two a piece. Out of all of the issues that I own, this is probably the most expensive one that I had to track down. Obviously, it has the Spider-Man appearance in it. I paid $10 for this issue, and that's probably about the most expensive that you're ever going to find for Ren and Stimpy comics. Maybe the number one if it's still sealed. We'll definitely take a look at the number one issue at some point. The whole purpose of this series is going to be, we're just going to grab 3 random issues, take a look at them, because that's how you're going to find these out in the wild. There's going to be random issues. You're not going to find them in sequential order. That's never going to happen, really. It's just kind of a fun little idea that I had to kind of do it that way. Show you guys all the different styles of comic that are actually out there for the Ren and Stimpy. One of the specials that we're going to look at today is called the Interactive Special, and it has crossword puzzles in it and all that sorts of stuff. So, they have a lot more ideas than just a generic comic. So the number one issue, like I was saying, it's polybag and it's sealed, and it has like an air freshener sort of thing in there. So it has like a little, extra gift or whatever. So that can run upwards to $10 as well. Mine is sealed, and I think I paid like $7 for it. So you can find it a little cheaper. The majority of these comics are going to be done by Dan Slott and Mike Kozela. Mike had done, previous to this, he had worked on the Archie Turtle stuff, and you can really see that in his art style, that working at Archie had a lot of influence on the way that he draws. You can definitely see a lot of that, Archie art style in here. These comics work so great is, as you guys are aware, Ren and Stimpy was more or less an adult cartoon for the time. There's a lot of outdated things in there for sure nowadays. But even though these are kids comics, same thing with like the Beavis and Butthead series, which again, I have a boatload of those, and that will be its own series. Taking a look at those, we'll probably look at those more in sequential order. With these, the writing in them is actually good. And a lot of licensed comics, that typically isn't the case. A lot of it is just throwaway kids stuff. I think that there's a lot to actually pull from these, and that's one of the reasons why I started just collecting them, and they're extremely cheap, so it makes it easy to collect. You could literally probably do all 40 plus of the normal issues with the handful of specials that they had, for under $100 easy, if not way cheaper than that. So of course we got our powdered toast man here. Yeah, it's a little fun comic that they had done here with this, the Spider-Man crossover. This is funny. These comics in particular really had a big influence on how I like to draw. A lot of that probably does come from, honestly, like Craig McCracken with the really thick brush lines that he uses on the outlines here. And like I say, like guys like Craig McCracken is a good example with thick outlines, and I love that, and that's something that I definitely implement in a lot of my drawing. I'm somebody who is a firm believer in bold images, and this is an example of that, minus the text. One of the things that I've heard Todd McFarlane talk about, even though a lot of his art is busy with the amount of line work and tediousy that he puts into comics, he had a story where he would have his pages and he would flash them to his mom, for 3 to 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rip the page away, ask her, what did you see? If she couldn't give a clear, concise, like, oh, it was a guy standing on a rooftop, kind of looking over top of city, blah, blah, blah. It was kind of like, I don't know. It kind of looked like a guy. I wasn't sure. You don't have a good image. You have to make sure that your image is readable. This is an easy way to do that, is to have, I think, bold, fat outlines. Think of your Mignolas or, your Frank Millers even. If you were to take one of their images, from Sin City, Hellboy, whatever you wanted to look at, and you were to hold that image at a distance from somebody, they would be able to tell, hey, that's Hellboy. Hey, that's Marv. Because the silhouettes themselves work, because it's good design. They're just bold images. I think if you were to take Jeff Darrow, easily a top, 10 artist for me of all time, if you were to take one of his drawings and hold it away from a distance from somebody, I don't know if it'd be the most readable thing in the world just because of the amount of lines that are on there. But when you look at something like this, it's a lot more simplistic, fat, bold outlines. You could, take this image and hold it 10 feet away from somebody and ask them, hold it up to them for 3 seconds, ask them what they saw. They'd be like, oh, is a superhero, in a good pose. This is funny. Ren, Punisher, and Stimpy Wolverine. Yeah, and then they have, like, these Ask Doctor Stupid things. They're just newsletters in the back where mainly it's just kids, they just write in and ask stupid stuff, and they answer them, honestly, in the dumbest ways possible, as you should probably expect. They more or less make fun of these kids right to their faces. They kayfabe it up a little bit, I guess, where, they're asking Dr. Stupid whatever, and they kind of poke fun at whatever they're getting asked. It's kind of funny. Yeah, Ren and Stimpy 6. When I was talking about, you see different styles of comic. So this is the same creative team. This is number 8. This is the Stimpy Maltese. So you can see they're kind of getting ready here. They're going to watch a movie, and then it goes into like a Sin City-esque noir story to where, hey, now it's going to be black and white. They kind of talk in that, I don't know, 1930s, 1940s sort of Dick Tracy style. Again, what I was kind of talking about with, the variety that you do see. These are kids comics, and they're still trying to freshen things up and do different things. They're not just hawking these things out like a cheap kids comics are out there, but you know what I'm getting at. They're putting more effort into this, is what I'm saying. And that's why they're worth to collect. Even if you're not a fan of Ren and Stimpy, there is a lot that you can pick up from, especially, I think, in lettering and just overall design of the pages. This is just a basic 3-panel layout. It just works really well, just a simple thing like that. Same amount as the last one. Ren and Stimpy number 8. Well, see Stimpy. This was one of the very first ones that I bought. I want to say this was like a $2 issue. I had opened this up. I was honestly surprised that, to see that art style in there, the black and white. A lot more going on. Look at this. Comic people out there. This has to be from something else. What is this from? Anybody know? Yeah, you get all those different art styles, I guess. Visual differences and whatnot. Pretty cool. So now we're going to move on here. So this is going to be the Ren and Stimpy Show Interactive Special. This is the one that I had mentioned earlier. This had come out a little later in the series run. So this is a 95. I believe that the very first Ren and Stimpy comic came out like towards the end of 92. It may have been January of 93, but definitely at that time frame for sure. So this is 95, so it's definitely way later in the run. Different creative team here. So we still have Dan Slott on the story, but when we are looking at our pencils and inks, they have 2 different people doing it here, as opposed to Kawaza was doing it by himself on the previous issue and just had a colorist. Ken Mitchroney, I'm not familiar with him, and Buzz McKim on inks, also not familiar, unfortunately, but they're the creative team here. With these specials, one of the cool things that they do, they have different themes in them. So again, this is the interactive special. So they have a little maze sort of deal, and this is a Waldo sort of image. This is a connect the dots sort of game. This is some sort of puzzle. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, so you're supposed to be like coloring things with whatever amount of dots they have in there, whatever color. There really isn't anything groundbreaking, obviously, in any of these stories in Ren and Stimpy. They're still pretty witty and funny. Again, I just wanted to show the variety of things that you get. So it's a little, story cube dice sort of game that you can get, and here's all the answers, and it just keeps going, and you get all these different little searches, mazes. And from what I've seen of this issue, even though this is an interactive issue, there is a lot of games and whatnot in here that would require kids ripping stuff out, coloring things in here, drawing things in here. A lot of the issues that I've seen kind of floating around in the wild are all intact, do not have any marks. I'm sure that they probably printed a million of these things because they were super popular, but that's just something that I've noticed. So if you ever do see this interactive special out in the wild, I would be sure to open it up before you buy it and kind of take a look inside of it, because the thing might be, ripped up to hell, missing pages, you name it, because that was, the intention for this book, and I'm sure that some kids probably actually utilized that feature. So just a warning for you guys out there. You can definitely tell the art differences here, especially in Stimpy. It's obvious, it's clearly a different way of drawing him. Kind of looks like Hobbs in the eyes, kind of reminds me of. Yeah, cool little drawing on the back there. Good old Ren and Stimpy. He's chilling in some Grady Kitty. Alright, so like I had said, this is going to be its own series. We're just going to pull 3 random issues, kind of flip through them, talk about them a little bit. There really isn't anything groundbreaking to actually talk about story-wise in these things. We'll just kind of flip through and look at the art. I just think it's going to be a fun little series just for you guys to actually look inside these comics. And like I said, they're everywhere, and especially in dollar bins. Fun little thing to collect. So yeah, I think we're going to wrap it up there. Again, thank you for watching and hanging out and talking comics. Have a good day.